The Emperor finally broke through the ultimate move, temporal suspension, instant, of the divine tree and launched a counterattack without a shred of hesitation. Like bolts of lightning, their figures collided, fists flying, striking directly at each other's faces. Boom! Boom! Thunderous blasts echoed as the fists of these two mighty beings smashed into each other's visage. The divine tree took a full punch to the left side of his face, leaving behind nothing but a faint, smoking abrasion, a testament to the terrifying impact. Though the actual damage was negligible, the Emperor fared no better. Taking a direct punch from the divine tree to the face, though uninjured, he staggered slightly and was knocked backward. The overwhelming power of their blows sent both flying in opposite directions, gouging deep trenches into the ground, debris scattering, dust choking the air. After the clash, the two re-established distance, their icy gazes locking in the tense battlefield air. The divine tree slightly furrowed his brow, doubt filling his heart. That technique, temporal suspension, instant. It was broken so easily. Seeing the astonishment on his opponent's face, the Emperor smirked with contempt, mockingly remarking, "So, your vaunted technique is useless against me after all." With that, he raised his right hand high, palm facing upward. Spiritual energy surged in torrents, condensing into a brilliant blood-red orb. As crimson as fresh blood, in the blink of an eye, that small orb swelled 10,000-fold, radiating a terrifying pressure that cracked space itself. The earth below splintered endlessly. Ash and dust filled the air, and gravity in the area went haywire like chaotic currents. Sensing the immense power about to be unleashed, the divine tree shouted in fury, "Are you trying to destroy this entire planet?" The Emperor looked at him with a mocking gaze, responding in a derisive tone, "You'll stop me, won't you?" Boom, boom! The divine tree had no more patience and sprang into action. Each of his steps shattered the ground, the land quaking violently. Shockwaves rippled out like earthquakes. Despite the Emperor's mockery, the divine tree remained calm, expression icy, murmuring coldly, "You enjoy playing more than I expected." Not far away, the fused tree beast lay on the ground, trembling in fear as he witnessed the scene unfold. He pleaded desperately, "No. Emperor, please. I don't want to die." But the Emperor paid no heed to the fused tree beast's cries. Still composed, he continued channeling spiritual energy into the blood-red sphere, letting the aura of death spread wider and heavier through the air. When the technique was complete, he decisively hurled the orb at the divine tree, like a baseball pitcher delivering a fatal pitch. From afar, Nine Tails had already entered its highest defensive state. Flames raged around its body, forming a blazing shield that enveloped both itself and Xiaoling. Not forgetting to protect her, Nine Tails warned, "Hold on tight." Staring at the blood-red energy orb, Nine Tails' pupils contracted, a sheen of cold sweat appearing on its face. It could tell the current shield wouldn't withstand that blow. It couldn't help but curse, "Damn it, it's too late to run now." Though the telling seems long, everything happened in an instant. In that very moment, the crimson energy sphere hurtled toward the divine tree. From a distance, Xiaoling cried out in worry, "Master!" The divine tree had entered a defensive stance, face calm and cold, eyes unwavering. In a deep voice, he remarked, "What overwhelming power!" Hearing that, the Emperor burst into hearty laughter, "Ha ha! Even I get praised by someone like you." But just then, the orb had reached him, crashing straight into the divine tree's body. Unflinching, the divine tree raised one hand to block the impact, then, like a seasoned volleyball player, he swung his other hand, channeling energy into the massive blood-red orb and smacking it into the sky. The fused tree beast, witnessing this, stared in wide-eyed disbelief, his expression filled with horror and shock. Everyone present was stunned. Even Nine Tails and Xiaoling, allies of the divine tree, were no exception, but the most astonished of all was the Emperor himself. Rendered speechless, the blood-red energy orb soared high into the heavens. Wherever it passed, dark clouds were torn apart, revealing a radiant, clear sky, as if the very firmament was being purified. And so, the orb continued to soar higher into the sky, trailing behind it a streak of blood-red light, as though it were carving a crimson scar across the heavens, in the blink of an eye. That bloody streak pierced through the atmosphere and shot straight into the void of outer space. Then the blood-red spiritual energy orb collided with the fabric of the void itself, and upon impact, it caused space to fracture. From the point of impact, layers of space shattered outward like a breached dam. In mere moments, the void that enveloped the planet disintegrated, and the celestial body was instantly released back into the realm of the real universe. Even though the fused tree beast was gravely injured, it could still feel the tremor of that clash with the spatial void. This realization filled it with dread. The entire planet had been freed, but that wasn't the end. The divine tree launched his counterattack. The dark domain was activated. Chunks of pitch-black space, like fragmented puzzle pieces, continuously formed, connected, and expanded until they enveloped the Emperor in a massive cage. In an instant, the Emperor was trapped within utter darkness. He could feel all his senses being stripped away. He could no longer see or perceive anything around him. Realizing his success in imprisoning the Emperor, the divine tree spoke softly. "Looks like I won't need to wait another year. Today, it ends." His voice deepened as he articulated each word with force, directing them into the void. "Isn't that right, Emperor?" Without waiting for a response, the divine tree summoned the 9 great root spears, enhancing them to their maximum power. In the blink of an eye, 9 colossal roots, like black, towering spears, shot forth, tearing through the darkness and heading straight for the immobilized Emperor. At this moment, the once mighty Emperor was no different from a mortal bound in a sack, being mercilessly bludgeoned by a gang of brutes. Under the divine tree's relentless assault, the dark domain surrounding the Emperor began to crack. From those fractures, blinding rays of light burst outward. Finally, the domain collapsed, leaving behind a gaping hole. From within, a dark silhouette, shrouded in thick smoke and dust, was blasted out and hurled toward the lava lake. Boom! Like a missile, the dark figure crashed into the molten lake, burrowing deep beneath its surface, sending lava spraying and smoke billowing into the sky. Soon after, one of the divine tree's roots emerged from the thick smoke, twisting through the air. From his corner, the fused tree beast, still watching the battle with wide, fearful eyes, broke out in a cold sweat. He stared in horror at the spot where the Emperor had fallen, and then, the Emperor's disfigured form appeared, his body nearly obliterated, reduced to little more than a floating bloodshot eye and tattered flesh barely hanging in the air. The fused tree beast was stunned. He had already been terrified when the Emperor was flung into the lava lake, but he never expected him to be reduced to this state. This was the Emperor, once seen as invincible, the strongest of all in his eyes, and yet he had been crushed by the divine tree, stripped of all his former dignity. At that moment, the divine tree stepped slowly toward the fallen Emperor and the fused tree beast. He stopped nearby. Lifting his gaze to look at the Emperor, his expression was calm, utterly undisturbed. Despite having beaten the Emperor to such a miserable state, not far off, 9 Tails and Xiaoling saw their master's victory and couldn't hold back their joy, their cheers bursting out with radiant smiles. "Master has won." Yet, the Emperor showed no fear. He returned the divine tree's gaze with cold indifference, and said, "I'm sure you must be feeling quite pleased with yourself now." But as he spoke, the divine tree began to move again. The massive root spears hovered around the Emperor like serpents coiling around prey. In a voice as cold as death, he replied, "You're already at death's door. Save your breath."